Hey y'all, welcome to the Hoffmann Homestead. Today we're going to make some sourdough. We'll start with active bubbly starter, and we want about 125 grams of that. And then we will add 362-ish grams of warm water. We want it to be warm so that this first rise happens a lot faster. If it's cold outside, cold in your kitchen, or you're adding cold water, that's going to take a little bit longer. You'll know that your starter is ready if it is floating in the water. Look at that little float we got going on there. That's a good sign. Now we're going to whip that up together. I'm using this interesting spoon, fork, spatula situation. It worked for me, but you can whisk it together. You can use a fork. You can use your hands if you really want to. Now we're going to add 12 grams of salt. I use pink Himalayan sea salt. And yes, this does in fact feel like a ridiculous amount, but it's important, I promise. Then we will add 500 grams of flour. I just use all-purpose. If you have fancy flour, good for you. I don't. This comes in bulk from Sam's, so that's what I'm using. And then I'll use that spoon, fork, spatula situation again to whip it into what is called a shaggy dough. I don't know why it's called shaggy, but I mean, when you look at it, it really is kind of shaggy. Now I'm gonna break out my bendy bench scraper and just scrape down my spoon and my bowl. This isn't necessary, but it does make my hand washing my dishes situation a lot easier in the future, so do what you will. Now we're just going to pop a towel on that and let it rest on the counter or in a warm spot for an hour. After that hour is up, we're going to start our stretch and folds. I recommend wetting your hands before you do this. I did not here, and you're going to see just how sticky it is on my hands. This first round, we're going to go around the bowl twice. This just helps add some tension into the dough and speed up that process so that we don't have to babysit this for 2 days, because I'm uninterested in that process. So we're going to do these stretch and folds around the bowl twice, and then in half an hour, we're going to repeat it again. We don't have to go around twice, but again, you do with it what you will. Sourdough is pretty forgiving. And of course, we're going to repeat the stretch and folds 4 times every at least 30 minutes. But don't worry if you get behind in this process. Waiting longer doesn't hurt. After all those stretch and folds, we're going to start our first shape. So we're going to lightly flour our surface, break up any big clumps that you've got, and we're going to dump our dough, that is super jiggly, onto our countertop. Now my dough's a little sticky here, so I pull it out of the bowl a little bit, but it should pop right out all in one big clump. If it doesn't, it's not ready to go yet. As you can see here, I'm not following my own advice, and I'm pulling some little bits out because it's not quite ready. But I'll be real with you, I decided to make this video kind of late at night, and so it's like 10 p.m. as I'm doing this, and I'm tired and ready to go to bed, so we're rushing. We're going to laminate our dough and fold it over into itself, and then roll it up into a nice little log, and then we can start that classic sourdough roll. Again, my loaf's a little sticky, so I keep pulling it off of my hands. But it's going to do the same thing. We're just adding that tension in the dough. All right, we're going to cover it with a bowl and let it sit on the counter for 2 hours for the bulk ferment. And then we are going to do our final shape. So we're just going to stretch it out like we did before, but much gentler. And then roll her up, add some of that tension, and try to get a nice dough ball here. As you can see, my dough is not nearly as sticky as it was, which is a really good sign. Again, sourdough's pretty forgiving, so don't worry about it being slightly stickier or drier or whatever. It's still going to bake. All right, now we flipped our dough over into a floured towel in a bowl. You do not need a fancy banneton basket in order to make bread. It's really not that complicated. Make sure you clean up in between while you have the time, but we're going to pop that puppy in the fridge for 2 hours. After that 2 hours, we are going to attempt to pop it onto our sling, or you can use parchment paper. I screwed up here and didn't pop it in the center, so I'm just going to pick it up and drop it again. This guy just helps me drop it into my Dutch oven. And then we are going to score. I decided to do a monster face here, so enjoy that scary guy. Now we'll pop it in our preheated Dutch oven for 35 minutes at 475, and then take the lid off and add another 10 minutes. Look at how beautiful this loaf is. It is stunning. It tasted amazing. Some of my first few loaves were really flat, so I get really excited when I have a nice fluffy loaf. This one was particularly fluffy. Don't mind my dull knife here, but we're going to get you that crumb shot. I don't know why, but it's a very important part of any sourdough video. It's what I look forward to the most. So look at that. Absolutely beautiful. It tasted amazing. I have, in fact, already eaten half of this loaf, and I don't even care. I love carbs. Let's go.